Hi, I'm Timothy. I'm the Adult Service Librarian for the Dorchester Road Regional Branch, and we're going to talk about mangas, manhwa, and manhua. So, what are the differences? Well, mangas are Japanese comics and graphic novels. Manhwa is Korean in origin, while manhua is Chinese. So, first, we're going to talk about the mangas. I've got six from our collection. These are fairly recent ones, and mangas are fairly are most common and the largest of the three, probably because a combination of entire generations of watching Cartoon Network, Netflix, and growing up on Gundam Wings and Sailor Moon. So I guarantee you, ask anyone my age or older, and what's their first anime or manga, it's probably Gundam or Sailor Moon, whether they admit it or not. So right now, the first one we're going to talk about is Cells at Work, which, two protagonists right here, a white blood cell and a red blood cell, and they go through a bodily misadventure dealing with how the body functions and encountering and fighting diseases. So, if you remember that cartoon Osmosis Jones, it's the same concept, thinking the body as the human or as a functioning city. So that being said, the anatomy is surprisingly accurate. So you could use this to teach principles of the human body. Now this one is Call Me Can't Communicate. This one's a funny one. So our character Tadano is an average schoolboy, and he just encountered, I guess, Komi, who comes off as standoffish and intimidating, and she's already in the first day of school the most popular girl ever, based on her stoic beauty and elegant grace. But in reality, she has extreme shyness and anxieties, and that keeps her from communicating with others to the point that she actually freezes when she tries to talk. In fact, our main character, average schoolboy, Tadano, actually was able to talk with her for the first time via, I guess, through written, I guess, charts on a blackboard, actually. And luckily, he helps, I guess, go through, I guess, overcome her shyness. And the main plot line is Tadano helping her find 100 friends. So it's very much it's a very wholesome, funny, and meme-worthy graphic novel that includes a little bit of slice of life of the Japanese high school. So there have been times where I have to, I guess, take a moment and say, ah. So now Fire Force is an action manga. It takes place in a post-apocalyptic world, which the world is pretty much in flames, except not surprisingly Japan, specifically Tokyo, and and of course in this world, most of the world is in flames, and I guess and people can actually how's the way to put it, can spontaneously combust and turn into demons called infernos, and unfortunately they lose their humanity. And that being said, there are a few individuals who are able to, I guess, gain, I guess, pyrokinetic powers, so I guess mutants in that regard. And our character, Shinra, can actually have the ability to ignite his feet at will. Now, he actually joins a special fire brigade to combat these infernos. And consequently, the plot revolves, I guess, fighting these infernos. And the overarching theme is that he encounters or undiscovers a hidden, I guess, conspiracy or plot within his organization and the powers that be. So they talk about how the origin of how the world became in flames in the first place, and the supernatural. So it's very much almost reminiscent to Naruto. A lot of action scenes. It tends to sucks you in, and over I guess continuity in theme and plot, and of course memorable characters. So it's very much a shonen in that regard. So this one, Way the House Husband, is a deceptively wholesome manga. It's very slice of life. Our character Tatsu is his backstory is that he was at one point one of the most ruthless and bloodthirsty of Yakuzas. And of course, flash forward to the present day, he's now happily married with his as a stay-at-home house husband with to a working wife, Miku. So, and from then on, it's basically a misadventure of how he does approaches, I guess, the daily tasks such as cleaning the house, cooking dinner, and shopping, but with the same intensity of his yakuza persona. So it's very much cathartic. You see him, I guess, negotiating with coupons, bargain buying, and also dealing with the local ladies association, and exercising. So it kind of takes that that just mundane task of life and blow it up to comedic proportions. So very wholesome and very episodic. So you don't have to necessarily start at the very beginning. You can start in the middle. So that being said, I wouldn't, I guess, miss a single page because there have been times where I have to stop and laugh because I've been laughing so hard when with each page, especially with each, I guess, twists and turns. So, okay, so we have Spy X Family, which is a very recent addition to our collection. And think, how should I describe it? Think of the overall plot line as Mr. and Mrs. Smith combining with the Addams family. So our character is a super spy, and part of his mission requires him to create a whole fake family. Unknowns to him, his fake wife and kids are not as who he think they are. So a lot of so it's very much an action comedy manga with how should I describe it? So almost spastic would be the right word. So, and of course, the key I guess feature is also I guess seeing I guess how each character I guess pops up in reaction to certain I guess dialogues. Mangas are and animes are known for that, the exaggerated facial expressions. This one though does a really nice job in doing that, and I'm not gonna spoil all of it because, like I said, it's a very new manga that just got released this year. So one of the unfortunate side of mangas is that that when you find a good selection that's brand new, you wanna read it so much that unfortunately you're already say 26 chapters in, and now you have to wait. So that's the torturous part is finding a good manga and then reading it so fast that now what? So luckily this one's not really much of a problem because this one's been out for I believe at least 5 years. Yuna the Dawn, which our character Yuna is the crown princess of her native kingdom, and typical princess life, sheltered, spoiled to an extent, and of course she's protected by her bodyguard Hawk, and she unfortunately is a victim of the palace conspiracy, which forces her to flee the palace and essentially pursue a life in exile. And to return, I guess, her rightful place and to save her country, she has to go on a quest to find four powerful warriors to who are. And of course, there's also a prophecy, and there's also a backstory of destiny, and et cetera, et cetera. So it's very much a fantasy shoujo, which means that it's aimed towards younger female readers. So it has a mixture of drama, action, romance, and a little bit of comedy too. How should I describe it? It's very much a mixture of. The cool part is that it's a mixture of Korean, Chinese, and Japanese cultural influences. So I'm a bit biased. I tend to see a lot of Korean influence, especially I guess in the clothings and the armor. So very much cool if you want to look into I guess a deep story. So and right now there most of these have anime. This one, the Dawn, there's an anime adaptation to it, but that being said, the mangas tend to be a lot better. So speaking of Korean, so we can talk about manhwa, which are essentially Korean, I guess you could call it Korean mangas, though the technical would be Korean comics and graphic novels. Unfortunately, most the way the market works in economics, most of them tend to be web comics, and they're not as popular in the past, but they're definitely getting a lot because they're in digital formats, so low barrier. And because they're web comics, they tend to be in color, which is a contrast with mangas, because mangas a lot of times are printed. So because of cost of ink, mangas tend to be black and white, while manhwa, because they're web comics, they are color more often than not. The few times they are black and white is for stylistic choices. And right now, one of the largest, I guess, digital platforms to read manhwa is Line Webtoon, which is a South Korean company. They're more famous for big series like Lore Olympus, and I guess very creative for the smaller, I guess, authors. So most of the manhwas there tend to be, I guess, the romance type. There's one thing I've noticed that with manhwas there is that essentially they are Korean dramas with in comic format. So if that makes sense. One in particular that I've been reading is True Beauty by Young Yi, and it basically has our our protagonist has it's basically she is a comic book fan who masters the art of makeup, and she gains immediate popularity in her school. She becomes the prettiest in her school, but the problem is that she has to maintain this facade for the public and also keep her real face hidden. Can she do that? And more importantly, what about that cute boy that knows her real face look like? So find out next time in the next chapter. That's actually how it happens. It has that Korean drama, I guess, tease. Just when you're trying to finish toward the end of the chapter, essentially tells you have to find out the next chapter. So it's very much of a tease, and has the overarching, the drawn out plot line and the drawn out romances. So the joke has always been with Korean drama is how long it takes. It takes at least maybe 20 episodes for the romance to culminate in holding hands. So, but yeah, that is manhwa. Now for manhua, which is spelled Manhua, I believe. Those are Chinese graphic novels, and unfortunately, they're not as big in the United States. They're big in China, obviously, and of course, there are digital platforms, but there are very few official English translations. Most of the manhwas tend to be stored in, I guess, Chinese websites and platforms. So it's kind of like how Weibo is huge in China, but not so much in the United States. So, and of course, just like how manga tend to be set in Japan, and manhwa tends to be set in Korean, I guess, context. With manhwa, it's basically you'll notice that the authors are more or less tend to be Chinese, and of course the settings and the naming conventions tend to be Chinese in nature. So the irony, though, is that many of the probably if your average, I guess, Chinese pop culture reference in Three Kingdoms was done through Japanese companies. So the irony there. But anyway, so that does about it. If you have any more questions about those three topics, I'll be here, I guess, to answer those. You can actually come by physically and actually introduce our additional mangas in our collection, and I can also introduce, I guess, what we can offer. So, and of course, not only just me, but our library staff can help you out in that regard. So hopefully this has been an enlightening experience. Thanks again for watching. If you have any questions, leave some comments in the box below, or you can come by to the library and ask us in person.